Shalom, Israel, shalom, shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Mashiach Wamalaki Bashai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring for the second coming of our Lord Hamashiach Wamalaki Bashai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and doing all things for the elect's sake, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemir Shah. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying. They're fasting. They're studying. They're being diligent, and they're abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom to those men. Shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters that are out there zealous, diligent, and on fire, moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom to the ancient men. Shalom to the children. Shabbat shalom to the elect of Israel scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shabbat shalom to everybody tuning in live. Lord Will Eslaki, that's tuning in live, brother Ezra, shalom King, Don Israel Tamid, CB 144K, Ezekiel, shalom King, Kapash, shalom, Josiah, shalom King, Nigel Blends, Kwame Yesha Allah, Jermaine, Dutkins, and again, everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. It's the end of America. All hell is breaking loose. They're saying Trump hasn't been seen since Tuesday. He has patches and blotches all on his skin. They say any given minute, he can give up the ghost. They say the vice president, J.D. Vance, he's ready for his opportunity to step up in the event that this guy gives up the ghost. There's warships being sent. I mean, as we speak, they're being sent out there to potentially wage war against Venezuela. They're sending their ships back. You know, you have Iran. They're being blocked off by the West. Iran said we're going to vow vengeance essentially on France and different European countries in the West. So you got tensions going on. You got wars going on. You got a major blood moon coming up. I mean, America's economy is collapsing. The society is collapsing. There's no more morals, no more ethics. The infrastructure is breaking apart. The bridges are collapsing. Natural disasters are wreaking havoc in the earth and other parts of Babylon the Great. I mean, you're in the end of the world, man, right? There's no greater topic I love going into more than the end of the world, right? You're living in the last days. You're living in the end of the world, right? Genesis chapter 49 and verse number 1. It reads, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. And you're living in the last days, man. You're living in the end of the world, man. The end of an age, an end of sodomy, freakism, racism. When I say that, I'm speaking about our people being targeted by the Edomites, right? You're living in the last days of damn pollution. You're living in the last days of your children being taken captive and hypocrisy and lewdness and lust and fornication and madness on the earth, man. So Yahweh Bashmi Shah is telling us to gather together, right? Don't isolate yourself. We need each other more than ever as we approach the last day of Babylon the Great. We gather together, we congregate, we pray together, we read together, we study together. You may not even be able to physically gather together, but through the world of the internet that Yahweh Shah has created, then you're able to also gather together. Brothers gather together, you know, digitally, virtually in a comment board, and you gather together, you drive, you make trips. Hey, the Lord commands us to gather together that he may tell us what is going to befall us in the last days. So we're in the last days, we're in the end of the world, and it's our job through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Shai to go into this topic, to answer these questions before this place goes down. So let's dive into this. I'll try to be brief, right, with each question. Some questions may take longer, some may not, but we dive right into these questions. First come, first serve. CB 144K. Shalom is Deuteronomy chapter 29, verses 10 through 13, talking about actual heathen. Let's deal with it, right? Deuteronomy chapter 29, verses 10 right through 13. It reads, Ye stand this day, all of you, before Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers with all the men of Israel. This is the Most High speaking to the generation of the Israelites who are about to inherit the promised land. Remember, everybody here from 20 years old and upward, all those men of war, all of the murmurers, all of the men that committed rebellion, all those men died off. They had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, right? When you read the book of Numbers, the 13th chapter, the 14th chapter, when the Most High sent the 12 spies out there, right? 10 of the spies murmured, except the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Judah, which is Joshua and Caleb. The judgment was the Lord is going to, let's actually get that real quick. Let's get the context, all right? Let's go to Numbers 14 to 30. We'll read 33. Numbers chapter 14 and 33. It reads, and ye shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. After the number of days in which ye search the land, even 40 days, each day for a year shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise. Man, you look, you're gonna know I'm not playing with you. This is real, man. Right? I'm gonna breach my promise temporarily. You people are not going to enter into the promised land. So these are their fathers, their children. When you read Deuteronomy, the first chapter, they were not held accountable for what their fathers did, right? This is Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse number, I believe this is what I want, 1 and let's see, 39, that's what I want, Salakia. It reads, moreover, your little ones, which ye said should be a prey, and your children, and which in that day had no knowledge between good and evil, they shall go in thither, and unto them will I give it, and they shall possess it. So the Lord said that the generation that didn't see all of the miracles, that didn't know good and evil, that weren't rebelling, they're going to enter into the promised land, right? That's why Deuteronomy means what? Second law. The laws are being reiterated a second time to the Israelites as they're about to go to the promised land. That's the context. Moses is talking to the Israelites as he's about to have them go into the promised land with Joshua. I'm going to read it again. Ye stand this day. Who's the ye? The ye are the Israelites. Before the Lord your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers with all the men of Israel. Your little ones, those are your children, your wives, right? Your women, and thy stranger that is in thy camp. Those are heathen, right? You had heathen strangers that came out of Egypt. You understand? You had heathen strangers that were taken captive. When you read Numbers, the 31st chapter, they took the Midianite woman captive, right? When we conquered all these different lands, we took people captive. We had strangers in the camp. Right? Every stranger is not an Israelite. We have to make that clear. Right? You have to, there are certain precepts that do talk about Israelites being strangers, and we can go into that. That could be a whole nother lesson. Right? But I'm trying to, like I said, be brief. When you read number 16, right, and 40 on down, if you're not a seed of Aaron and you want to do the work of a priest, you can't, because you would be a stranger. Right? If you are a woman and your husband dies and y'all don't have any children, you can't marry without unto a stranger. You have to marry the nearest of kin to your brother, right? Leviticus 25 is another key example, 35 on down. If your brother wax poor, right, though he be a stranger, you have to relieve him. Sirach 29, 24 on down. The Lord said, thou darest not open thy mouth where thou art a stranger, right? So we are strangers in certain contexts. This context, we're not strangers, right? To answer the question. And it tells you, from your hewer of thy wood unto the draw of thy water. This is a term that's applicable to heathen. When you read the book of Joshua, the 9th chapter, you read about the Gibeonites, who essentially deceived the princes of Israel, and they were made hewers of wood and drawers of water. That's slave work. That thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath which the Lord thy God made with thee this day. The thou is not talking about the stranger, right? He's talking to the Israelites and telling them about the stranger in their camp. Thou is speaking about a particular people, right? Who's the thou? Verse 10. The thou is yea, right? Your captains, your strength, your tribes, your elders, your officers with all the men of Israel, right? So the Israelites going into the promised land, that's the thou. That thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God. Now keep in mind, the covenant was already established in the book of Exodus, the 24th chapter. It's not as if they're making a new old covenant. The covenant is already established. They're entering into the covenant, meaning they're binding themselves essentially by the laws and the statutes and the commandments that they must be obedient unto. There's no account of them making an entirely new covenant. There's one covenant essentially that was made with Yahweh Bashmi Shai and the Israelites in the wilderness, bound by sacrifice. They're entering into that covenant the same way your children enter into the covenant, right? You came into the truth. Your children, they enter into the covenant because they are born of you and they have to abide by the same laws and commandments, right? It says that thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God and into his oath, which the Lord God maketh with thee this day, that he may establish to thee, Slakia, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, right? Deuteronomy 14:2, Deuteronomy 7:6, Deuteronomy 26:19, right? Exodus chapter 19, 5-6. And that he may be unto thee a God, as he said unto thee, as he swore unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. So who is this talking about? The people that come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Who is that? The Israelites. Just because you see the word stranger doesn't mean that they're bound by the covenant. They're just in the audience as God is confirming the covenant with the Israelites. All right. So hopefully that answers that question. Did I read 13? Yeah, I read 13. All right. So let's move on. Okay. Ezekiel. The Hosea sleeping with the harlot, is that literal or spiritual as in parabolic? So Hosea literally did that, but there's a spiritual meaning behind it, right? Like I said, I know I'm moving fast, right? But that's okay because I know sometimes I get long-winded and there's a hard deadline, right? When it comes to the time. So I want to comprehend much in few words. So this is Isaiah chapter 8 and 13. And always feel free to, hit me up personally through social media. You can hit the email up if you feel as though your question has not been thoroughly answered and you need more, by any means, or look for the next Q&A if it's not a pressing matter. So to answer the brother question, I want to preface it with this precept. Isaiah 8 and 13. Behold, it's like I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth in Mount Zion. So the prophets, their family, their children, they are set up for signs. There are certain things that they do that is done on a surface level, but it's a sign for the Israelites to warn them. It can be a sign that judgment is coming. It can be a sign for them to come back to the Most High. There are many things the prophets did that were for signs, right? Isaiah said that I and the children whom the Most High gave me are for signs and wonders. That's not just for Isaiah. That's for many prophets. Let's go to Hebrews, the first chapter. It's like on Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 1 and verse number 1. Here's another precept. The Most High, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. So there are different ways the prophet spoke. You read about Ezekiel removing stuff out of his house by night and packing up. That was a sign that the Israelites would be taken captive. Right? You read about Jeremiah writing all of the judgments of Babylon and casting it to the river Euphrates. The Lord said, thus shall Babylon sink and never rise again. That was a sign for the Babylonian Empire and America that they would be destroyed and never rise again. The Lord told Isaiah to go into a prophetess. And you're going to call his name Maher-Shalal-Shalal-Baz. I know I'm kind of butchering the name, which means the Most High is going to hasten the destruction, right? So you have these different prophets who do things that are out of the norm, but they're used spiritually as a warning or as judgment or as a call for repentance. Those are the diverse manners. The Lord told Ezekiel, I'm going to take your wife from you. Put your head wrap on, put your mitre on, your tire upon your head, right? Eat not the bread of them that mourn, and do what I tell you to do, right? Told Ezekiel to lie on his side, right? And all these various diverse things, they were prophetic warnings and judgments. So with Hosea, yes, Hosea actually did this, but we understand that it's spiritual, and it tells you that, right? Hosea chapter 1 and verse number 2. The beginning of the word of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hosea. And the Lord said unto Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. Right. So great whoredom is idolatry. Remember, we as a people, we are espoused and or married to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. We're his wife. We are the bride. When you step outside of that marriage or that betrothal and you lay down with another man on a literal level, that's whoredom. On a spiritual level, when us stepping out of our marriage or our betrothal is us dealing with other gods, other deities, right? Other forms of sorcery and witchcraft. Baal was heavy whoredom. Our people were into Molech. These were the main two so-called affairs spiritually that we had, right? That's whoredom. Let's get a quick precept. All right, like I said, then we'll kind of move on. Wisdom of Solomon, right? Chapter 14, we'll get the classic, and verse number 12, right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. So when men, I'll put it like that, when men created idols, that was the beginning of spiritual fornication. You have literal fornication. Literal fornication can be many different things. Literal fornication could be homosexuality, whether that's men with men, working that which is unseemly, women with women, right, which is also unseemly. It can be a man and woman with beasts. That's also fornication. Ancestral relationships, a father and his daughter, a mother and her son, right? That's also fornication. Adultery is fornication. A woman stepping outside of her betrothal and marriage to lay down with another man, right? A man laying down with another man's wife, right? That's also fornication. And outright men laying down with women and not making those women their wives, and or prostituting their daughters to become whores. Those are various forms of fornication, right? So you also have spiritual fornication, which is you bowing down to another god, making a graven image, praying to another god, calling upon the name of another god, idolatrous feasts, and other forms of rituals that go into serving somebody or something outside of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Our fathers in the days of Hosea, as he prophesied toward the northern kingdom, they were heavy into idolatry. They had 2 golden calves that were set up in Bethel and one in Dan, and they became snares and stumbling blocks to the children of Israel. So the Lord put the spirit of Hosea to say, lay down with a whore the same way my people lay down spiritually with other gods. So let's read on to Hosea chapter 1 and 3. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblam, which conceived and bare a son. And the Lord said unto him, call this name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. Right? So Jezreel in the Hebrew means a seed of God, Yazara'ala. Right? So it means the seed of the Most High God. And the Lord says he's going to avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu. Right? Remember, Jehu was set up as a king who purged out wickedness, but he himself was still committing idolatry. So I'm going to read 3 more. And it came to pass, and it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again with the same whore, right? And bare a daughter. And the Most High said unto him, call her name Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Right? So that's for signs and judgments. Okay. Moving on. Did Ezekiel eat dung literally, or that symbolic of eating defiled bread among the Gentiles? Yeah, so Ezekiel, essentially he prepared his food with man's dung. I mean, with cow's dung. The Lord told him to use man's dung. He said, I, Lord God, my soul hath not been polluted. Right? So let's get that real quick. I want the 4th chapter. Right? So it is to answer your question, it's he had to literally do this, but it was a sign that the Israelites would eat their defiled food amongst the Gentiles. Ezekiel chapter 4 and verse number 13. And the Lord said, actually, I'm going to read 12. So when you read this whole chapter, and the brother asked me earlier to do a breakdown of this chapter, which I will, Abaratazah, right? This goes into Ezekiel setting himself up as a sign of a siege and Israel being conquered on a high level. So when you go into this breakdown, it goes into the effects of what happens during a siege. Famine, people die of thirst of water, and Ezekiel had to essentially carry that out. He would drink a little bit of water. He had to, he didn't have adequate food because it was a sign of Israel being besieged by their enemies. Now I want Ezekiel chapter 4 and 12. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. Right? And we do eat defiled bread, man. GMO, Monsanto, high fructose corn syrup, things that have ingredients that you can't pronounce. All types of madness, man. The same people that make your food, you get sick and your high blood pressure kicks in and gout, are the same people who give you prescription pills at your local pharmacy or your hospital, right? So this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the same people that own the hospitals are the same people that make the food so you can go to the hospital. So you're eating defiled bread, right? Defiled food. Then said I, Lord God, behold, my soul hath not been polluted. For from my youth up, even till now, have I not eaten of that which dieth of itself, or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh into my mouth. I never ate anything unclean, right? Or anything else that violates the law. Here's the point, verse 15. Then he said unto me, lo, I have given thee cow's dung for man's dung, and thou shalt prepare the bread withal. Right? So that would be essentially your fuel and your source to be able to have your fire to be able to cook your bread due to a lack of resources. Right? That's what that's saying. Let's get 4 and 15. Let's see if we can get that in another translation. Right? Because they may explain it or say it in a way that brothers can understand. Right? So let's get that in Ezekiel 4. I believe I want 4 and 15. Right? So it's a future sign of a famine that the Israelites would go through in time to come. Right? So again, these are questions that you're asking, King, that pertain into signs and wonders that the prophets had to do to symbolize judgment. Right? So same thing, right? NIV, I will let you bake your bread over cow dung instead of human excrement. Right? So you'll normally bake your bread with certain things, sticks and other resources that you had to start a fire, right? But due to a scarcity of resources, you had to use dung. That's what the Lord is saying. I'm gonna break you down so bad, you're gonna use dung, right? So it's baking your bread over cow dung. It's not Ezekiel actually eating feces, It was just the fuel source for him to be able to make that food, right? For him to prepare his bread, right? So that's what it's saying. So let's move on, right? Let's move on through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel. Next question. Isaiah, see, brother Zeke, you got them questions in back to back to back, right? Isaiah nakedness and Isaiah 20. Could you break that down for me, Baba Kashan? Khan Adawan, right? We'll break that down, right? We'll break that down. Isaiah chapter 20 and verse number 1. And the year that Tartan came into Ashdod, when Sargon, the king of Assyria, sent him and fought against Ashdod and took it. At the same time spake Yahweh by Isaiah the son of Amos, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off thy loins, and put off thy shoe from thy foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. Why did he have to do this? This links back up with Isaiah the 8th chapter. I and my people, or I and my children, are for signs. So this was used as a sign. Another sign is you read about in the book of Acts, Agabus, the prophet, went to the apostle Paul and he essentially took his girdle from him. Huh? And there's another account, he bound himself up and says, so shall this man be bound up to Jerusalem. Let me see if I can get that real quick. So again, you read about these different signs. I believe this is Acts 20, right? Let's see if that's what I want. Maybe Acts 21. Right, where Agabus actually came up and got on him, huh? And well, really warned him, right? Really warned him of what would happen, right? And Paul pretty much told him, you know, I'm ready to die, man. Right? So Slaki, let me get this precept, right? Let me get this precept through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah about Agabus the prophet, right? Yeah, Acts 21. I was reading right over it. Salakia. Right? This Acts chapter 21 and verse number 10. And as we tarried there many days, there came down from Judea a certain prophet named Agabus. And when he had come unto us, he took Paul's girdle and bound his own hands and feet and said, Thus said the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle and shall deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles. And as we heard these things, both we and they of that place besought him not to go up to Jerusalem. So the prophets could warn other prophets. The Most High could put the spirit on one prophet to get on another prophet. And Paul was over Agabus in the spirit. That doesn't mean a damn thing with Yahweh Shah, right? Same thing with Nathan getting on David. Same thing with the old prophet deceiving the young prophet in 1 Kings 13 chapter. But you see what Agabus did. He literally bound his own hands and feet to represent what? Paul being bound up by the Jews when he would go to Jerusalem. So that's another example of what our fathers did. Isaiah's doing the same thing. There's a reason why he's loosing sackcloth and taking his shoes off and walking naked and barefoot. It's going to tell you. Isaiah chapter 20 and verse 3. And the Lord said, like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia. That's a hell of a testimony, man. A lot of brothers want to do that, man. If the Most High said, I need you to, loose your sackcloth and walk naked and barefoot, you're going to say, what about my job? What if they see me? What if I go viral? Hey, it is what it is, man. You got to deal with it, So he had to do this. Here's the reason why. Isaiah chapter 20 and 4. So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian prisoners and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. So it was a sign, because in the ancient world, when you took people captive, you cut their garment down. Remember, the men of Ammon did that to David's servants. They shaved off their beard and they cut their garment down to their buttocks, man. That's how, weren't we brought over here like that? We didn't come over here in our garments, man. You would think that we didn't have anything because how they depict us getting off the ship. But prior to us being sold, we had mitres on, garments, staffs, chains of gold. And they stripped us of all of that. And we came off those ships, same thing, barefoot, naked, man, with our buttocks uncovered. So that's what you do to slaves for shame and to demoralize them, right? And for cleansing, right? Because they got defiled clothes and things of that nature, man. So let's move on. Okay, CB 144K. Right? I'm trying to get these questions done in a reasonable time. All right. Can you break down Hebrews chapter 1 and 8? I know people use this to say that Hamashiach is God, but I know that's not true. Okay, let's deal with Hebrews chapter 1 and 8. It's saying people use this to say Yahushua is the Most High, right? Now, this verse is saying that Yahushua is a God, but he is not the Most High God, okay? And this is quoted from the Psalms, right? So, like this Hebrews chapter 1 and 8. But unto the Son, he said, thy throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of thy kingdom. So this is a reference to Yahushua. Yes, Yahushua is a God. Guess what? If you are a man in this truth, you are a God. Your son is a God. All right. The word God should not be always applied to some supernatural, deity, right? The word God in the Hebrew is Allah, right? It means a judge or a power or a ruler. And it is a term that's often used to describe men and angels, Yahushua and the Most High. The difference between the Most High God and us being a God, or Yahushua being a God, is what? The Most High, meaning he is the supreme God. He is the supreme power that has created all other powers. Okay? Let's read on the Hebrews 1 and 9. Thou hast loved righteousness and hated iniquity. Therefore, God, even thy God, hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy fellows. So the Most High God anointed Yahushua to have more rank and rulership and dominion over all men and angels. So much so that at the name of Yahushua, every knee shall bow. Okay? Now, let's get the classic. What did Yahushua say in John 10? This is the book of St. John, chapter 10 and 34. Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your law? I said, ye are gods. Right? So the law, meaning he's really quoting the Psalms, right? Psalms 82, 6 on down. So all of us are gods. All of us are children of the Most High. Yahushua is a God the same way David was a God, right? The same way that Josiah and Hezekiah were a God. Let's go to Exodus chapter 22, right? Exodus chapter 22 and 28. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Does this mean you can't revile Molech? Oh, don't speak against Molech. Don't revile Molech. Don't revile Baal. Don't revile white Jesus. You got to bow down. Be careful, white Jesus here. Don't say too much. No, the gods that you can't revile and speak up against are the kings and the priests of your nation, your elders, your judges. You cannot revile them. You cannot do what Miriam did in Numbers, the 12th chapter. You will be judged. You cannot do what Korah, Dathan, and Abiram did. You will be judged. You cannot do what Absalom did, Amnon did, who reviled their father David as a god, and they were judged. You cannot revile the gods. Even in the book of Jude, it says, these are they that despise dominion and speak evil of dignities, man. So your dignities are your gods. The highest dignity is Yahweh. He has given authority and judgment and honor to his son, Yahushua. As you worship the Father, you worship the Son with reverence. But Yahushua is not the Most High God. He himself proclaimed that, right? So I hope that answers that question. Okay. From Kapash. Can you, Slaki, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, King. What day would Yahweh Shah have died according to the weekly 7-day Sabbath, as 3 full days after his death would have been a Sabbath, right? So Yahweh Shah was put in the grave Thursday night, so-called, they was called the Thursday night, Friday night, so-called Saturday night, right? And then he rose after that. So he rose up early. That's why when they came early toward the first day of the week, as it was dawning toward the first day of the week, he was already gone, right? So he would have been in the day so-called day portion of Thursday. In the Hebraic world, a portion of a day is still counted as a day. You read that in the book of Esther, the 4th chapter, right? You read that in these accounts. Yahweh Shah said he would rise the 3rd day. It doesn't disannul 3 days and 3 nights. It just means that it's a portion of that that's counted as a whole day, right? So the day portion, remember, he was put in the grave. He gave it the ghost at 3 p.m., right? At the 9th hour, right? Which is roughly around 3 p.m. That's the hour of, or the evening sacrifice. They hasted to put his body in the grave before the sun went down. So they got him in the grave before the sun went down. That's a portion of a day. So they count that. That would be your so-called daytime portion of Thursday. That's one day. Then you have the nighttime. So that's one day, one night. Then you have so-called Friday morning, so-called Friday night. That's 2 days and 2 nights. Then you have so-called Saturday morning. That's the 3rd day. You have so-called Saturday night. That's the 3rd night. He rose right after that. That's why when they came toward the first day of the week, he was already gone. Okay, let's get that in Matthew 28. All right, let's get that in Matthew chapter 28 and 1. He wasn't in the grave 2.5 days. He wasn't in the grave 1.5 days, or just, some madness. He was in the grave as long as he said he was in the grave, right? Matthew, it's the only way that the Gospels align and make sense. In the end of the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath, we teach that the Sabbath is Friday sundown and Saturday sundown, right? The 6th day at sundown to the 7th day at sundown. So at the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre, right? So the sun is coming up. Yahweh Shah is already gone, right? Because by the time the sun comes up, that would be the 4th period of daylight, right? So Yahweh Shah was already gone, right? So he has to be up before that 4th day. A day could be a period of light, or a day could be 24 hours. So when he said 3 days and 3 nights, those day portions, when he says day, those are portions of 24 hours, if that makes sense. For the brothers that may not get it, a day is 24 hours, the evening and the morning were the first day, or a day could be 12 hours, what you call it a daytime. When Yahweh Shah said 3 days and 3 nights, those 3 days are 3 periods of daytime, right? So they're coming as it's dawning toward the first day of the week, as that sun is coming up. Yahweh Shah has to rise according to prophecy, because if they come and he's still in the sepulcher, when that sun is up, that would be technically 4 daylight periods. But the prophecy says 3 days and 3 nights. So he's already risen by that time prior to that 4th day, right? Let's read on. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. Right? I want to jump down to verse number 6. He is not here. That's what the angel said. For he is risen, and he said, come and see the place where the Lord lay. So they looked in, and the Lord wasn't there. He already rose. Right? He already rose. So Most High willing, that answer your question too, King. Josiah Stephen, Shalom, King. If there's somewhere in the law we can connect 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 16 through 17. Okay, let's deal with it. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and 16. So somewhere in the law. It reads, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So, yes, you can go in the law, and I'm gonna get a precept most high willing. First, you have to understand that we literally had a temple. And if you understand the temple, if you understand the tabernacle, you understand that the tabernacle and the temple were divided into different portions. So let's pull up an example of the tabernacle, right? Let's pull up a picture of the tabernacle. What would happen if you would defile the tabernacle in the law? If you broke through where the porters were, if you broke through into the holy place or the most holy place, essentially you defiled it because you were a stranger. And if you defiled it, you will be put to death. That same dynamic of the law is now applied to us as a nation and to us as individuals. So if you defile that temple the same way you could defile that temple by being strange into it or smoking or doing something strange outside of the law to your temple, you will also get put to death. Right? So yes, it applies to the law when you understand the law regarding the tabernacle and the law regarding the temple. Here's a picture of the tabernacle in the wilderness. Now, you had the actual outside gates that you couldn't come in. If you were a non-Levite and you walked into this gate, you defiled the temple. Doesn't matter who you thought you were or how old you were, you defiled the temple. You defiled the tabernacle. You were unclean. You didn't wash yourself in the brazen laver. You didn't purify your garment. You weren't anointed with the oil, had your ear dipped in blood or sprinkled with blood or your right thumb or your big toe like the priest. So you were the unclean thing. Men are things. And if you were unclean without going through the purification and the sanctification that these Levites and priests went through, then you defiled that temple. So what comes into your body that's also defiled? That same spirit. Dope, weed smoke, cigarettes, excess drinking. These are the things that also defile you. So yes, it goes back to the law. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 38. Okay, so yeah, it ties back to the law. Don't let nobody tell you it's not in the law. Right? Exodus, Salakia, chapter 38. And I just want to read about the gate very quickly. Right? This Exodus chapter 38 and 18. And the hanging for the gate of the court was needlework of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, and 20 cubits was the length, and the height and the breadth was 5 cubits, answering to the it's like answerable to the hanging of the courts. So you had these different gates that were set up as the perimeter and the boundaries for the temple. Right? Now let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 16. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 16 and verse number 40. To be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger, which is not of the seed of Aaron, come near to offer incense before the Lord, that he be not as Korah and as his company, as the Lord said to him by the hand of Moses. So you couldn't, even if you wasn't a Levite, but not the seed of Aaron, you couldn't light the incense. You can't come into those ranges. You couldn't break through or you'll be destroyed. It was sanctified and it was set as holy, right? So if you were the unclean thing and you went into there, then you also defiled your temple. So it's in the law, right? It's in the law about who's a stranger, who can go into the temple, who cannot go into the temple. All these things are written, right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 28, right? Get maybe one more, maybe two more, and let's do the spirit and power. Yahweh Shema Shah. Right? This is Exodus chapter 28 and verse number 43. I'm going to start at 41. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother. These are the garments, and his sons with him, and shall anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest office. So if you, according to the law, weren't a priest, if you weren't one of Aaron's sons, you weren't anointed, you weren't consecrated, you weren't sanctified. You're the unclean thing. you defile the tabernacle or the temple. Verse 42. And thou shalt make Slakia, and thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach, and they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. It should be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. So that's plain. Only holy vessels, men are vessels. You read Hosea 8, right? You read 2 Timothy, the second chapter. We're all likened unto vessels. Only holy vessels can be inside the temple. Unclean things cannot come into the temple. Rather, it's individuals or objects. Let's get one more. Maybe I said that already, but that's okay. I believe we're on Numbers, the 8th chapter. Right? Let's go to Numbers chapter 8 and verse number 5. So it wasn't just the priest, you also had the Levites. Here's the law. Numbers 8 and 5. And Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai spake unto Moses, saying, take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them. And thus shalt thou do unto them to cleanse them. Sprinkle water of purifying upon them, and let them shave all their flesh, and let them wash their clothes, and so make themselves clean. Then let them take a young bullock with his meat offering, even fine flour mingled with oil, and another bullock thou shalt take for a sin offering. And thou shalt bring the Levites before the tabernacle of the congregation, and thou shalt gather the whole assembly of the children of Israel together. So all our elders, our ancient men, everybody came up when the Levites came up. Now here's the point I want. And verse number 10, it reads, and thou shalt bring the Levites before the Lord, and the children of Israel shall put their hands upon the Levites. Right? So again, this is a transfer essentially of the firstborn being done for the Levites and them taking on the work and the sins of the people. Okay, so this is why they had to do these offerings, because the Levites were cleansed. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole chapter, but you read about the Levites being clean. The Levites can go into the temple. The Levites can go into the tabernacle. The priest can come, only the priest can actually come in to the tabernacle and serve at the altar of incense. And only the high priest can go into the most holy place once a year for the Day of Atonement. So in order to understand 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and 16, because sometimes you meet people, they say, well, it's not in the law. Show me the law where I can't smoke. Show me the law. Well, whoever says that, they don't know the law, because the law has very, very, very granular statutes that go into the temple of God. And men in their lust and men in their ignorance, they don't know the law of the temple and the Levites and the priests. Therefore, they think that this is not of the Most High God. There's not one thing that the Apostle Paul wrote that wasn't of the Most High God. And many things he did reference, they go back to the law. So let's read this one more time and we'll move on. This was a good question. The other questions were good too, but this one really hasn't been asked before. It reads, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth in you? So we're the temple now. You understand how strict it was for the temple under the order of Aaron to be cleansed? How much more the temple under the new high priest, Yahweh Shai, to be cleansed? So the Spirit of the Most High is in us. If any man defile the temple of God by bringing unclean things, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So surely we understand, right? Josiah Stephen, Shalom King, can you break down John 3 and 13? Khan Adawan, let's deal with it. Right? John 3 and 13. It reads, Slakia, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. So this is Yahweh Shai speaking about, or he's speaking to Nicodemus about spiritual things, right? Now, Nicodemus came to Yahweh Shai by night and said, We know that no man can do the miracles that thou doest except he become from God, paraphrasing. So I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but Yahweh Shah said you got to be born again. He said, what does that mean? Do I have to go into my mother's womb? Yahweh Shah said, no. He said, you don't know these things. So he begins to break down to him his presence and, what his purpose is, essentially. So when you get to verse number 13, it says, and no man hath ascended up to heaven. What does that mean? So it's a reference to Yahweh Shah's ascension, right? That would take place. Yahweh Shah ascended up to heaven when you read the book of Acts, the first chapter. Yahweh Shah also, it says, but he that came down from heaven, Yahweh Shah was also sent from heaven. And on another level, Yahweh Shah has ascended and came down from the heavens to the earth many times. When you understand Yahweh Shah's nature, he came as Solomon, Melchizedek, right? Many times Yahweh Shah ascended and descended throughout the course of the creation. His main ascension is what I quoted in Acts, the first chapter. Let's get that. All right, let's go to Acts chapter 1-9 about the ascension. Acts chapter, see, they say it right here, right? The ascension. Acts chapter 1-9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. So Yahweh Shah is talking to the disciples, the apostles. A huge chariot comes and translates and beams them up unto the third heaven. That's another ascension. That's his most famous ascension. It says, but he that came down from heaven, and Yahweh Shah also descended, right? And he was sent by the Most High from heaven to the earth. Let's get that. In the book of, let's do John 16. Right? This is the book of St. John, chapter 16, and verse number 27. For the Father himself loveth you, because ye have loved me, and have believed that I came out from God. I came forth from the Father, and am come into the world. Again, I leave the world and go to the Father. Right, so he descended from the Father, from the third heaven, to the world, to the earth, to the people. And then he would go up to the Father. So no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven. Yahweh Shah is the only one to ascend and descend. Even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. Now you're like, well, hold on. Well, how is he in heaven? When he's talking to John. Well, when he says he's in heaven, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai are one, right? So Yahweh Shai is the word of the Most High. You understand? See, now this goes into Yahweh Shai's divinity, his nature. Yes, Yahweh Shai is on the earth, but he's saying he's in heaven. Not that he's physically in heaven, but him and the Father are one, right? Even the Apostle Paul said something similar regarding the church of Corinth. He said, though I being absent, I'm here with you in the spirit. Right? Let me get that real quick. And that's what Yahweh Shah is essentially saying. Right? The spirit of Yahweh is in me. I am the word of the Heavenly Father. Right? So Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bashmel Shai filleth all things. He fills the heavens and the earth. Let me get that too. I believe that's Jeremiah. Haven't got that in a long time. Right? Let me just get that. Right? Slocky, bear with me. Right? He filleth the heaven and the earth. I believe that's Jeremiah, the 24th chapter. Haven't brought that out in a while, right? All right, so let me get this in Jeremiah. No, I want Jeremiah, right? I may just go to 23, right? Jeremiah 23 and 24. Let's get that. So this Jeremiah 23 and 24. Can any hide himself in secret places that I cannot see him? Saith Yahweh. Do not I fill heaven and earth, said the Lord. So the Lord, his spirit is in earth and his spirit is in heaven at the same time. Yahweh Shah is the word of the Most High. The word is manifest in heaven and the word is manifest in earth at the same time, right? Yahushua physically was in a body made for him on the earth, but the spirit of Yahweh is in his son Yahushua. So it's on earth, and his spirit is also in heaven. Let's go to I had something I want to go on 1 Corinthians 5. Right, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 3. For I verily, as absent in body, but present in spirit, have judged already as though I were present concerning him that hath so done this deed. So you could be physically away, but you can still be there. Why are you there? Because your spirit is there. While you're on a high level, this isn't for a nigger on the street smoking crack, right? This is for certain men on a high level, and I'm going to break it down. Your spirit, the Most High is working with certain brothers that your spirit could be with the congregation. That's why you have a lot of, I'll put it like this. As the judges, so as officers, right? So the spirit of particular leadership is going to rest on particular men. You understand? Just like a spirit on you is going to be on your wife. So your wife might be somewhere in Kansas, but your spirit is on her. You're there and you're here. How are you here if your wife is in Kansas? Because your spirit is on her. Her mannerisms, all of that is part of your spirit. She's walking in your spirit. Certain men in congregations, they take on the spirit of their ranking officer or leader, or whatever the case may be. Why? Because that spirit is on them. It also comes from that particular individual. So the spirit of the Apostle Paul, he's saying that my spirit is in Corinth, but I'm all the way wherever he wrote this letter from. So when Yahushua said that even the Son of Man which is in heaven is speaking about the spirit of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua is in heaven and it's in earth because he's the word of the Most High. There's another precept I wanted, I was thinking about, Most High willing, it comes back. Oh, 2 Kings. Let's get this real quick. Remember what Elisha told his servant Gehazi, right? 2 Kings chapter 5 and verse 25. This after Gehazi was covetous and took the garments. See, the brother making me spend some time on this question, right? I'm supposed to move on, but that's all right though, all right? Because we gotta get the understanding on this. Gehazi went to covet Naaman's garments and his wealth. After Elisha denied it, Gehazi lied and finessed to try to find a way to get these garments. So this 2 Kings 5 and 25. But he went in and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no whither. He lied, right? Elisha knew that he lied. Let's read on. And he said unto him, Went not mine heart with thee? When the man turned again and his chariot to meet thee, is it a time to receive money and to receive garments and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants? So he said, Went not mine heart with thee? Did his mind literally go with him? No, it's a spirit. See, the spirit revealeth all things. The spirit on Elisha was on Gehazi, and it followed Gehazi. So the things, that's why certain things that brothers do in camp, needless to say, it always comes out. It always comes to the light, to the leadership, because the spirit of those brothers is resting on that congregation, right? So the same thing, right? Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua, his spirit was upon the apostles. The spirit of the Most High is in us. The Yahweh's spirit is in us, but it's also in the third heaven. We just read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and 16, right? It says, if any man defile the temple of God, it's like, let me go back to that real quick, right? Let's just read that, then we'll move on. It's like I want 1 Corinthians 3. We just read this, right? Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Does that mean that the Spirit of the Most High is not in the third heaven? No. Spirit of the Most High is in the heaven, but it's also in the earth. Spirit of the Most High was in Yahushua, but it was also, while he was on the earth, but it was also in the third heaven. Yahushua said, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven, because the Spirit of Yahweh by Yahushua is in heaven and in earth all the time. I mean, this is all the time. Yahushua said to the apostles, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. Yahushua is still here through the Spirit The comforter, which is the spirit of Yahweh Bashmiel Shah, is here, but it's also in the earth. Right? I know you Christians, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it, right? You're going to try to scoff and what are you guys talking? You're not going to get it. See, Yahweh Shah is deep, right? When you really understand Yahweh Shah and the spirit of how Yahweh Shah works, that's what you got people saying Yahweh Shah is the most high God in the Old Testament. I'm hearing this madness, right? You got people saying, well, there's the Trinity, and people don't understand Yahweh Bashmi Yahweh Shah, right? So that they're trying to make sense of their mind, but they don't understand the nature of the Creator and His Son, right? And what the rank and structure is and how the Spirit of the Most High works. So I spent a lot of time on that, right? Let's move on. Right, no fault to brothers, but I'm trying to be succinct. That's the word of the night, right? Or of the day. Okay. It's the Gentiles in Isaiah 49:6, Israelites or heathen. Let's deal with it, right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 49:6. We got to start at 5 to get the context, right? Isaiah chapter 49:5. And now, saith Yahweh, that formed me from the womb, to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord, and my God shall be my strength. So the purpose is for Jacob to be gathered back to the Most High, right? The 12 tribes. Verse 6. And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation to the ends of the earth. So us being a light to the Gentiles, first and foremost, is speaking about Israelites who live like actual nations, right? That's the main primary focus, right? Because again, you always had this dynamic where you had the Jews or Israelites that knew that they were Israelites that had to been taught. Then you had Israelites who didn't know that they were Israelites that had to have been taught, right? So let's get a precept on this. That's why it says that thou mayest be my salvation to the ends of the earth, right? So who's salvation for the Israelites? All right, let's get a precept on this about I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. Now, at another level, yes, you're going to have Israelites that are actual light to the heathen, right? You're going to have Israelites that are a light to the heathen. The Most High said in Revelation 21, they're going to walk in the light of it. The nations of them which are saved are going to walk in that light. Let me get that real quick. Right? So it's a dual essential, dual prophecy essentially, right? But first and foremost, it applies to Israel for whom salvation is. This is the book of Revelation 21 and 23. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of the Most High did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved, meaning preserved for slavery, shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. So the nations, they're going to walk in the light of the Israelites, but really, you're going to have Israelites that are in darkness, first and foremost, that need that light. Matthew chapter 9, that's what I want. Slakia. Matthew chapter 9, and this is what I want. Actually, Slakia. I believe I had it earlier. Matthew 4. Okay. Matthew chapter 4 and verse number 12. Now, when Yahushua had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee, right? And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt at Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, and the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. So our people that didn't know about Yahushua, right, that didn't know the truth, those people also received the light because they sat in darkness. That's why it says Galilee of the Gentiles. Why is it called Galilee of the Gentiles? Were there Israelites that lived in Galilee? Yes, you had Israelites that lived in Galilee. There's not a great majority or a few of the apostles from Galilee. Was not Peter and Andrew, John, James, our Lord, our King Yahushua? Weren't they all from Galilee? Wasn't Yahushua from Nazareth? Yes, he was from Nazareth. Right? We clearly understand that he was born in Bethlehem, but he was raised in Nazareth. Yet the prophecy says Galilee of the Gentiles. Now let's pull up a map. All right, let's pull this up. And I may pull it up. Let me see if this is the map that I want through the Spirit. So you want to pull up a map, right? So when you look at, let me pull this up as well. So you can look at a map of the 12 tribes in the Old Testament, and you can also pull up a map of Israel in the New Testament through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shah. Now, what you're looking at, you're looking at Decapolis. This is a portion predominantly in a Gentile state of mind, landmass where the Israelites dwelt at. You had some heathen. You had this tetrarchy of Philip, of Bethsaida. You have Galilee, right? Syrophoenician province. So it's called Galilee of the Gentiles because it was a territory occupied by the Gentiles. Now, it also goes back to the northern kingdom. When the tribe of Naphtali, the tribe of Zebulun, the tribe of Asher were taken captive, you had a lot of heathen that was put in that land in the northern kingdom. That's another reason why it's called Galilee of the Gentiles. Right? Now, you had Israelites that lived in that land who Matthew and his skill is applying his prophecy to, who are also going to walk in that same light, right? They're also going to walk in that same light through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah, right? Now, bear with me. See if I want to get this. But this is Galilee of the Gentiles, right? So let's go to Isaiah 9 as well. Isaiah chapter 9 and 1. Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea beyond Jordan and Galilee of the nations. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. That dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them the light has shined. So you had Israelites that lived in his land and also needed that light. You had Israelites that lived like the heathen that needed that light. And then the kingdom, you're going to have heathen that are going to walk in that light as well. Right? So that light in Isaiah 49 to the Gentiles, first and foremost, is to the Israelites who live like Gentiles. And then second is going to be given to the heathen. Right? Let's get how much time? I mean, let's get another precept. Right? Let's go to the book of Galatians. Right? Let's go to Galatians chapter 2 and 9. Right? Galatians chapter 2 and 9. I'll start at 8. For he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. So Peter was going to the circumcision and teach them about Yahushua, which are the Jews who knew that they were Israelites, raised up in the law. The apostle Paul was sent to the Gentiles, meaning Israelites who lived like the other nations, and the Lord was working with them. Verse 9. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me Barnabas. They gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go into the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. So they went to the heathen. Who are these heathen? Israelites. who lived like the other nations in Galatia, Greece, Italy, and other parts of the known world at that time. All right, so let's move on. Okay, Kwame Asha'ala, why did King David show mercy to Saul and not Nabal? Right? Well, remember, King Saul was the Lord's anointed, right? He was the Lord's anointed. He was anointed by the Most High to be king. Nabal was not, right? Nabal was not. This is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 24 and 10. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord had delivered me today into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me kill thee, but mine eye spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth my hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. So when you read 1 Samuel the 8th chapter, 1 Samuel the 9th chapter, 1 Samuel the 10th chapter, those are the early stages of Saul being asked for by the people, where they asked for a king, and Saul being anointed by Samuel. See, when you're anointed by the Most High God, you're chosen, right? You're consecrated, you're set apart. You're on a different level, a different stratosphere, if you will. Nabal was not. So you have men, it's a difference between you and its truth. You're anointed by the Holy Spirit. You have an unction from the Holy One, and you know all things. The Negro outside, that's a homosexual, smoking crack, doing God knows what, he is not anointed. And the Most High, what he's going to do is he's going to separate those that are anointed from those that are not anointed. And they get treated differently. It is what it is. Right? Those that are anointed in the last days are going to be reserved for the kingdom of heaven. Those that are not anointed are going to be destroyed. So Saul was anointed. That's why David didn't kill Saul. He was the king. That would be a sin. Right? That'd be off. Now, he was also about to go off to destroy Nabal too. But if the Most High gave mercy unto David, and the Most High put the spirit on the Abigail to stop David from avenging his blood or avenging himself. You understand? And really, the same way that Saul hunted and was going to kill David, that's the spirit that David was moving in to get Nabal. You know? So these are the things that the Most High was revealing to us to show us that dynamic as well. The same way that Saul was hunting David and to kill him, you know, him being the Lord, anointed as well, it's the same way that David sought to kill Nabal, even though Nabal wasn't the Lord's anointed. So there's a difference between who's anointed and who's not, right? Nabal was just a foolish, regular man. Is it okay, from Kwame Asha'ala, is it okay to go to a funeral or memorial on the Sabbath? Yes, it's okay, right? It's not a sin. You know, unfortunately, the Most High didn't say that everybody, you know, lives and nobody dies on the Sabbath. No, we're in the ancient world. Remember, you had to bury that body before the sun went down. So people, you know, stuff had to happen, man. And let me get this first. There's no law that says that you can't do it on the Sabbath, right? Romans chapter 5 and 13. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. There's no law on that. There's no scripture that says it's the Sabbath. You can't bury somebody. Well, you got to bury them before the sun go down. You can't mourn over that individual, right? So I think we'll leave it at that. Nigel Blends. In Leviticus 5 and 1, are we commanded to be witnesses for the heathens also? Or this is for Israel? Jake always get caught up and pulling to testify in the world. Well, Leviticus 5 is speaking about the nation of Israel. So if I'm an Israelite, right, here's how this law works. Now read it. If I'm an Israelite and I hear Officer Benjamin or Brother Judah, if I hear Brother Judah says, I swore that I did not steal this brother's sheep. He said, I swear to the Most High. You know how Jake, they put on their mother, they put on their father, they put on their dead mother's grave, and then you catch them up and say, I didn't say that, right? If I'm called to testify as a witness, I have to speak up and say, yeah, he did say that. I heard him say that. He swore to the Most High that this happened or it didn't happen. That's amongst the nation of Israel. Because these matters, remember, they were brought before the judges of the nation. It has nothing to do with the heathen. It has nothing to do with the so-called white man. Now, if you are involved, I'm going to get the law, but if you're involved in a matter where you are required to come to court and testify, if you don't, then you can get jammed up. You can get jammed up. So you have to have wisdom too. So I'm going to get Leviticus 5:1. Then I'm more than likely, Lord willing, get the legal term about this man's world too. You know? So let's go to Leviticus 5:1. Right? Leviticus chapter 5:1. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing and is a witness, whether he have seen it or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. And I pulled this in another translation as well. So again, if you hear somebody swear and you know about it and you're called to testify about that action, you have to testify. You have to speak up. You can't say that's none of my business. You can't say I don't want to get involved. And that's the nature of Jake. You never want to get involved in anything, right? You never want to speak up for righteousness, right? You got to say stuff at times. Some stuff is not your business, but if you're called to testify, it is your business, man. This is the book of Leviticus 5:1. I'll read the NLT. If you are called to testify about something you have seen or that you know about, it is sinful to refuse to testify, and you will be punished for your sin. NIV. If anyone sins because they do not speak up when they hear a public charge to testify regarding something they have seen or learned about, they will be held responsible. You are called to testify. Now, let's get the term. What is it called when you do not testify in court? I can't remember the exact term off the top of the head, right? I pulled it not too long ago. When a person does not testify in court after being legally ordered to do via a subpoena, they are said to be in contempt of court. This is a serious offense that can result in penalties such as a court-imposed fine, a bench warrant for their arrest, or even imprisonment until they agree to testify. However, a person can legally refuse to testify if they have a valid reason, such as invoking their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, or the information requested is privileged, such as attorney-client or spousal communications. And that's not in the Bible. There's no Fifth Amendment in the Bible. There's no, well, I plead the Fifth. I don't want to speak up. Yeah, I heard this brother swear to the Most High that he didn't murder this man, but yet the witnesses say he murdered, and I don't want to testify. Man, I don't really want to get involved. I plead the Fifth. There's no I plead the Fifth with the Most High, man. So this matter was brought before the judges, right? The matter was brought before the judges. And we as a people, we have to learn how to get back to going before the judges, even for civil matters, right? This 1 Corinthians, the 6th chapter. You know, hey, if something simple, man, if a brother hit your car, man, you know, yeah, you can sue the brother. Y'all in the same camp or same body, or Slakia, y'all are two different Israelites, right? Y'all brothers have to learn how to go before learned men or elders or judges to work that matter out, man. Stop suing that brother for $25,000. You know, that's 1 Corinthians chapter 6:1. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters? So brothers can judge the smallest matters, right? A car jam, man, a fender bender by somebody stole something. We have to learn how to start getting elders and ancient men and learned men involved even in our public and civic affairs, and stop going for the so-called white man. Here you went, you took your brother, two Israelites, you took him to court, man. Got a restraining order on him, or you took him to court, and then the judge look at him and then give him 5 years in prison, man. Now your brother doing 5 years in prison because the judge decided to heap up charges and put him in a jam. Don't do that to your brother, man. Go before the saints. And really, the Lord said, if anybody wants to sue you or take away your coat, give them your cloak also. Paraphrasing, man. Right? So be forgiving as well. Right? Learn how to be forgiving as well. Kwame Yasha'Allah, can we throw up curses on the wicked? Yes, you can. The same way Elisha did, please do. Baba Kashar, keep throwing up these curses, man. Right? When you read this account, Elisha threw up curses on the children. Now you can get mad. Well, why would he do that? First of all, those children were wicked, man. Right? Let's get that in 2 Kings. Those children were wicked, man. They wasn't just little old innocent babies bringing peace offerings. Remember where Ezekiel was at? Elisha was at. A key thing to know how wicked these children were is first, Sirach 11 and 18, it says, a man shall be known in his children. Here's where he was at. 2 Kings 2 and 23. And he went up thence unto Bethel, one of the most wicked cities in the ancient world. And as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him, and said unto him, go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. Now, these children were off, man. They were the children of their wicked fathers and mothers who lived in Bethel, right? Straight up and down. Now, remember, Bethel was, again, like I said, one of the most wicked cities. Let's get Amos chapter 6. So them kids had demons on them, right? They had those demons on them through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Actually, I want Amos. But I want Amos the 8th chapter. That's what I want. Here it is. This is Amos chapter 8 and verse number 14. They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, thy God, O Dan, liveth, and the manner of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise up again. So you had a lot of wickedness in Samaria from the northern kingdom. And he set up these two golden calves, and they were saying, thy God liveth. These be thy gods which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. The Lord said they're going to fall and never rise again. Right? Let's go to the book of Amos, the 7th chapter. Now check this out. Amos chapter 7 and verse number 13. But prophesy not again anymore at Bethel, for it is the king's chapel and it is the king's court. That was the headquarters of sin. Yeah, you had Samaria, but this, during the time of Amos, this was a wicked, nasty, vile city. The children were wicked. The parents were wicked. They had wicked priests. The king was wicked. So the children was outside. They're like YNs, man. See, when you got wicked cities like Baltimore, man, Atlanta, Trump is going to Chicago, man. They got those, what they call these YNs out there. That's how these children was in Bethel. They wasn't just innocent, nobodies who didn't know anything, man. Right? The children of that city are wicked because the city itself is wicked. Now, the people take on the spirit of their city. Right? Let's get this in 2 Samuel chapter 20 and verse number 18. Let's start at 16. It reads, then cried a wise woman out of the city Here, say, I pray you unto Joab, come near hither that I may speak with thee. So this one, Sheba went off and tried to overthrow David. Sheba fled. Joab went to hunt him down. And Joab is about to throw down this whole city where he thinks this man is hiding. A wise woman came out and said, I need you to listen to me. Verse 17. And when he was come nearer to her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. Then she said unto him, Hear the words of thine handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. Then she spake, saying, They were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely ask counsel at Abel, and so they ended the matter. What does that mean? See, the city of Abel was different than the city of Bethel. Bethel was a headquarters of sin and wickedness and idolatry. Abel was a city full of wise individuals. Because she's saying back in the ancient times, when people needed answers and they didn't need any second guesses and they need sure confidence on what to do, where would they go? They would go to Bethel. And after they heard the people from Bethel, they ended the matter. It wasn't like, well, let me get a second opinion, let me get a third opinion. So the fathers and the mothers and Abel were righteous. And so you had this wise woman. Their children were righteous. Right? Bethel is not the same thing. So it was a spirit on Bethel for these children to be so evil that they mocked a man of the Most High God. Now let's read on. 2 Samuel chapter 2 Kings 2 and 24. And he turned back and looked on them and cursed them in the name of Yahweh. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood and tear 42 children of them. That's a big deal, man. Throw up those curses, man. I'm not saying throw up curses on all of the children. Throw these curses up on these nations, on the Edomite, on the Moabite. And the Lord said the elect are crying day and night unto him, man. I throw up curses on people all damn day, man. Strange curses, strange calamities, man. Throw these curses up through the Spirit. The Lord threw up a curse. You know? Paul threw up a curse. Paul said, if any man believeth not, let him be anathema maranatha, meaning let him be a vessel fit for destruction. So curses are biblical. Throw these curses up on these heathen. Pray for their destruction and their demise and their downfall. Stop praying for America to continue so you can make a little bit more money, man. So you can finally get married. So you can finally get that car. You want 5 more years because you're finally going to get that job opportunity, man. You just want to bask in it a little bit longer. The hell with your damn job, huh? But brother, they told me next year is my big moment. Hey, man, look, man. We don't give a damn about your big moment, man. We care about your how about Shah. Stop praying that your job continues, man. For 5 more years, for 3 more years. Because you want to get married, because you want to do this, because you want to have children. Because it's not about you, man. When has the truth ever been about you? It's about the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So you're supposed to be praying for the downfall of this place. Fire and death and judgment and disaster and pain and sorrow and depression and the breaking of jaws and bones. These are the things that the men of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua are going to be doing, man. Hey, let me get one more on that. Let's go to Jeremiah 10. Well, I don't know about that. Should we really do that? That's not Christian-like. Well, you don't know the Bible, man. If those are your sentiments. Jeremiah chapter 10 and 25. Now remember, Jeremiah is one of the elect. One of the greatest prophets to ever walk the earth. Jeremiah 10 and 25. Pour out thy fury upon the heathen that know thee not, and upon the families that call not on thy name. For they have eaten of Jacob and devoured him and consumed him and have made his habitation desolate. So Jeremiah was praying that the Most High destroy the heathen. Yes, Jeremiah prayed that all white people die. Yes, Jeremiah prayed that the Chinese man will die. He prayed that the African man will die. Doesn't matter how, it just matters that he prayed that they will. Okay? So we get that. Judah in the house. Let's move on. What is First Ezra chapter 8, 50 through 68 going into? Fasting and giving alms to the priest for a same trip. Explain how that can be done today. I may not have time to read all these verses out, but we may keep it short. All right, let's go to First Ezra, the 8th chapter. Now, the brother, I believe he said he wants 50 through 68. Okay. All right, we'll read a little bit. And there I vowed a fast unto the young men before our Lord, to desire from a prosperous journey, both for us and them that were with us, for our children and for our cattle. So the context of this is what? This is a commission from King Artaxerxes around 457 BC. He has commissioned Ezra to go back to Jerusalem and to have him build up the nation of Israel. So the Most High, but through the king. Ezra asked, he really pretty much said essentially, we don't need any help. The Most High is going to help us get there safely. Verse 51. For I was ashamed to ask the king footmen and horsemen and to conduct for safeguard against our adversaries. Right. And I feel that. I feel that. He said, look, man, the Most High is with us. Now, would it have been a sin to ask for protection? No. See, Nehemiah had really an escort. When you read the book of Nehemiah, he had pretty much an escort and a lot of help to get him back to Jerusalem. It's not a sin, but everybody got different spirits. Nehemiah and Ezra had a different spirit. Okay, neither one is right or wrong. Ezra was like, "Look, I don't need nothing," and his brother's like that, and the Most High got me. Other brothers say, "No, let me hold that. I'll be cool. I'm gonna thank the Most High." Verse 52. But we had said unto the king that the power of the Lord our God should be with them that seek him, to support them in all their ways. So again, he was confident that the Most High would help him. And he had gold and silver and wealth that he accumulated, that he had, and he was going to go and give it to the Levites and the priests and to the people of Israel. Right? So that's what, when you read the rest of this, that's what this goes into. Right? So let's jump down to verse number 66. 12 lambs, goats for a peace offering, 12, all of them a sacrifice to the Lord. So he had all of this wealth, and they bought sacrifices and certain things to offer up to the Most High. All right, that's all they're saying. And they delivered the king's commandments unto the king's stewards and the governors of Seleucia and Phoenix, and they honored the people and the temple of God. So they had a green light to do all righteousness back in Jerusalem. Okay, so that's what that goes into, King. Right? That's what that's going into. Right? You said fasting and giving alms to the priests. How can that be done today? Well, on a spiritual level, we fast. Yahushua said what? Let's get this in Luke chapter 5. What did Yahushua say about us fasting? Fasting should be done. And you have to ask yourself, if you're not fasting, are you truly a disciple of Yahushua? Right? This is Luke chapter 5 and verse number 35. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days. Yahushua said, once I'm gone, the true people that follow me, the true Israelites, my true disciples, they're going to be fasting. A brother should make it an effort to fast once a week. We encourage brothers at least once a week, right? Once every 2 weeks. You build yourself once a month, right? You should be fasting often if you're a disciple of Yahushua. If you're not a disciple, you're not going to fast. It is what it is. Now, in the concept of giving alms, you can also give alms. See, what they gave to the priests were things that pertain to sacrifices. You you make your body a living sacrifice to Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. How do you make your body a living sacrifice? It means your life now belongs to doing the work for the Most High God. Rather you're out there on the highways and byways, rather you're giving alms on a carnal level, rather you're giving charity, rather you're reading, rather you're studying, rather you make garments, rather you prepare food, rather you leave you give precepts out, you counsel individuals. That's you now giving alms, right? And you also doing the work as a priest. Okay, so you can fast and you can make your body a sacrifice as well. Because that's all the priests did with the alms, is they bought sacrifices and things that pertain to the temple. Make your body a living sacrifice, because you are the temple. Okay, swag society. In Zechariah chapter 8, 4 through 5, it says, children and old age will be in the kingdom. How does that look since we live forever? Will people stay a certain age forever, or look the same, gray hair, or look young forever? So the scriptures don't go into detail about the concept of what age do you hit and then you don't, wax old anymore. There's no really detail on that, right? So I can't honestly and give a thorough answer because it's not written. The Most High said, "I have not seen nor ear heard the things that the Most High hath promised for them that love Him." So there are certain things that we don't know. The Lord said we prophesy in part. Watch your brother that says he knows every detail about the kingdom of heaven. He doesn't. You're not going to know every single minute detail and how this is going to be and how this is going to be. You can speculate, but you can't back it up with the precepts because everything's not given, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and 9. For we know in part and prophesy in part. So we prophesy in part. But meaning what? Meaning we prophesy according to what the Spirit has given us. A portion. We were given a certain portion or part of understanding and wisdom. And that's what we're going to teach. We only teach what we know. We don't teach what we don't know. If we don't know, we don't know. Do I know what kind of mansion Jeremiah is going to live in? No. Do I know, okay, when you hit the age of 20, then you don't age it? I can't say that. It's not written. So I can only prophesy in part, right? But when that which is perfect is come, meaning when Yahushua returns, then that which is in part shall be done away. So when Yahushua returns, the hidden manna, the secrets, the understanding, that's going to be revealed unto us. Right now, there's only so much that the men of the Most High know. There's only so much that we know. So I can't necessarily say in Zechariah the 8th chapter, okay, when you hit this age, how does that look? Are you going to get older? Okay, well, when you turn 60, does that mean that those details are without? They're not within. Okay, so I can't necessarily say. Revelation chapter 11 and 18. Is Revelation 11 and 18 a good way to show the nations that are preserved in Revelation 21 and 24 are angry, showing these nations didn't experience salvation? Revelation chapter 11 and 12 are saved among the nations. I'm not sure what you're asking right here, but we'll read Revelation 11 and 18. It says the nations were angry, right? So he's saying, is this a good way to show the nations that were preserved are angry, showing these nations didn't? I'm not sure what you're asking, but I'll read those verses and I'll just break them down, right? If you want to rephrase that question, King, by all means, I'll deal with it. So this is Revelation chapter 11 and 18. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Right. So when it says, and the nations were angry, these are actual heathen nations, right? Why are they angry? Let's go to Matthew. Actually, let's go to Revelation chapter 1, because it's the time that they're going to be judged. Right? Revelation chapter 1 and 7. Their kingdom is being taken away from them. Their power is being taken away from them. Their slaves, which are the Israelites, are liberated. Their wealth is going away from them. Their military and all things that they have worked for to build up is taken away. So the nations are angry. Right now, they're angry at America, right? They're angry at what the world is turning to, right? They're angry that we're waking up to the knowledge of the Most High, and they're going to be angry at the time of judgment, at the time of the dead being judged. Revelation chapter 1 and 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. And all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, amen. So the nations are going to wail. What does it mean to wail? Right? Wail, it means a prolonged, high-pitched cry of pain, grief, or anger. So the nations are going to be angry. Yeah, they're angry now at certain things, how America's leading them and destroying their lands and taking them over. Yeah, they're angry really at us waking up to the knowledge of the Most High. But this anger really on a deeper level is going to go into the day that the Lord returns. Let's get another precept. So they're going to wail when Yahweh returns with the clouds, meaning the chariots, because they know that their kingdom is over. Let's go to Matthew 24. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse number 31, or 30 rather. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So one precept says they're going to wail. That loud, bitter cry, that scream. Another precept says that they're going to mourn, right? So there's going to be they're going to be emotional, right? Needless to say. So when Yahweh returns and when the judgment comes, the nations are going to be angry. Now, let's go to Revelation 21 and 24. Right? Revelation 21 and 24. And I read this earlier. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. And the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. So you're going to have nations such as the Moabites, such as the Elamites. They are going to be preserved. Yes, it says saved, right? But it doesn't mean that they're going to receive salvation based off of prophecies that pertain to the Israelites, right? They're just going to be reserved for judgment. This is also written in the book of Isaiah, the 60th chapter. So they're going to come and bring tribute and gifts and their forces and wealth to the gates of Jerusalem. Okay, that's all this is saying, right? So that's Revelation 21 and 24. Okay, swag society. And Romans, most out willing, we doing well, Lord willing, right? Trying to fly through these. I know we got a lot of questions. Okay. In Romans chapter 15, 9 through 12, which Gentiles are being mentioned here? Is there two sets of Gentiles being mentioned? Israelite Gentiles and heathen Gentiles. Okay, let's deal with it. Romans chapter 15 and 9. Right? That's a quote. That's a quote from Deuteronomy. Right? 32nd chapter, if I'm not mistaken. So this is Romans chapter 15 and verse number 9. And that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written, for this cause I will confess thee among the Gentiles and sing to thy name. So these Gentiles are Israelites, right? Who live like the other nations. And again, he said, rejoice ye Gentiles with his people. So his people are the Israelites who know that they're Israelites, and the Gentiles are Israelites who didn't know that they're Israelites, right? And again, he said, praise the Lord, all ye Gentiles, and laud him, all ye his people. I believe you went it through 12. And again, Isaiah said, there shall be a root of Jesse, and that he shall rise to reign over the Gentiles, and in him shall the Gentiles trust. So Paul is using Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, Isaiah, the 11th chapter, and he's account with skill the same way James used Amos, the 9th chapter, with skill to have it be applied to Israelites who live in a Gentile state of mind, right? Let's get Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, because that's exactly what Romans chapter 15, 10 and 11 are pulled from, right? So this is Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse number, let's see, I want to start at, right, bear with me. This is what I want, Deuteronomy. Slocky, bear with me. Let me zoom in and find this. Okay, here it is. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 43. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance to his adversaries and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. So when it says rejoice, O nations, with his people, this in its proper context, we're speaking about actual nations, right? See, the Lord said, all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. And in Isaiah, the 14th chapter, the nations or the trees are going to clap and rejoice when a so-called white man is taken down. But what the apostle Paul is doing is this nations that at one time was used for actual heathen, he's using it in skill to apply to the Israelites in Rome who live like the other nations, right? And this is what overthrows a lot of brothers and a lot of Christians. They see the word Gentile and they say, well, hold on, well, in the Old Testament it's talking about actual heathen. That means in the New Testament. No, it's not all the time. That's what the James, Paul, they were masters in skill and using certain precepts that is talking about actual heathen, but applying it to the Israelites. James did the same thing in Amos the 9th or Acts the 15th chapter. Right? Let me get that in Acts the 15th chapter. Right? This is Acts chapter 15 and verse number 16. I'm going to start at 15. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written, after this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and will raise Slakia, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. So James, what he's doing is this is him talking about how they're going to deal with the Israelite foreigners. What's the order? What's the decree that they're going to give them? Do they have to be circumcised to be saved? Do they not? How are they going to guide these proselytes into the kingdom of heaven? And he's quoting Amos, the 9th chapter. Now, Amos 9 and 11 on down, which I'll read, is talking about actual heathen. But James, through the Holy Spirit, uses that to talk about the heathen. Hey, and brothers do that, man. A brother will read Jeremiah 14 and 2 and say, Judah mourneth, the gates thereof languish, they are black unto the ground. And they'll say, see, the Jews are black. Now, is a brother wrong for doing that? No, man. Right? And it's proper, contextually speaking, it's speaking about us being in the lowest state, right? But you can use skill and apply it to us and our dark skin. And there are many other precepts you could use with that. And our fathers did the same thing because the secrets of wisdom are double to that which is. So let's read on Acts 15 and 17. That the residue of men might seek the Lord and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, said the Lord who doeth all these things, right? So let's go to Amos, the 9th chapter. So James skillfully uses Amos 9 to make it talk about the Israelite foreigners, even though in its proper context, it's talking about actual heathen. See, the Apostle Paul did the same thing in Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, right? Amos chapter 9 and verse number 11. And that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. So the tabernacle of David represents the elect, the house of David, right? That they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name, said the Lord that doeth this. So here we are reading about the Edomites and all the heathen, but James is using that to talk about these Gentiles, the Israelite foreigners. Is James wrong for doing that? Hell no, man. The same way as Matthew wrong for saying Yahweh Shah would be called a Nazarene, you know? Is the Apostle Paul wrong for using Psalm 68, quote unquote, out of context when he wrote Ephesians, the 4th chapter? No. When it says he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men, he used that to talk about the ministry, but in Psalm 68 is talking about Yahweh Shah coming with the chariots. Same thing in Romans chapter 15, 9 through 11. I hope brothers understand. The Apostle Paul is using skill where you have a verse talking about actual heathen, but he applies it to the Israelites because they were living like the heathen. Okay? That's all it's saying. Okay. What will the kingdom be like for the 2/3? For the 2/3, they're going to be just born again as somebody's child, as their children, and they're going to be righteous. They're going to be raised up in the law. Right? They're going to be raised up and they're going to hear the great things that the men before them have done. Right? Now, are they going to have positions and titles like the men that came before them who endured the first resurrection? No. So the difference between the 2/3 being born in the kingdom and a 1/3 is their rank, their authority, their favor with the Most High, and their position. Because the 144,000, they're going to be the governing body of the nation of Israel. The 2/3 are just going to be ordinary civilians. They might have a horse, they might have a house, they might have a little bit, some land, might have a slave, 2 slaves, 3 slaves. They're going to have an immortal body. They're going to be, they're going to be righteous, right? But they will not be the same as the 12 who sit on 12 thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. They would not be the same as Isaiah, as Jeremiah, as these men, right? They won't be treated the same. You're going to have rank and order in the kingdom. Every kingdom has rank and order, right? So that's that. Now you want a precept? Let's get a precept, right? Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 20. Okay. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 20 and verse number 6. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of the Most High and of Hamashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. So these men, they're going to be part of the first resurrection. If you're part of the first resurrection, then you're going to have a different lot, right? You're going to be ruling over 10 cities, 5 cities, right? You're going to be having high positions in the kingdom, okay? From HBK, Shalom King, what are some clean animals and insects we will most likely encounter on our pilgrimage? Well, it depends on where you're at, right? Because every area has different ecosystem. It's a different environment. Now, clean animals that we encounter are deer, or you see deer all the time in the woods, or you might not. You have certain pigeons. You can eat a pigeon, right? You can eat a pigeon is lawful. A deer is lawful. Locusts are lawful, So when you out there in the days of Jacob's trouble and we're a pilgrim on the earth, you can't eat anything. You might see a damn dead deer, but you can't eat anything that dies of itself. You might see an animal, a deer, but it's limping. They got a damn gash in the skin. You can't eat that. Why? Because you can't eat anything that's torn or torn in pieces. You can't strangle anything. And also, there are certain herbs that you can eat. So, it's going to depend. We believe and understand wholeheartedly that the Most High said, my servant shall eat, but ye should be hungry. My servant shall drink, but ye should be thirsty. That's Isaiah chapter 65, 13 on down. The Lord said in Job chapter 5, 19 on down, that in famine and destruction thou shalt laugh. So we're going to laugh and rejoice in the days of famine. We're going to be taken care of. However, the Most High decides to take care of us, Lord willing. So, it all depends, Ak. It all depends, depending on where you at. But, it's important to go back and read that law. Because a brother might see an animal and you can't eat that animal, man. You can't eat a falcon, right? You can't eat a hawk. You can't eat a rabbit. We was teaching, what was this, last week? And for some reason, the spirit said that you can't eat a rabbit. We brought that out. We don't ever really bring out you can't eat a rabbit. But the spirit came out, you can't eat a rabbit. And then Eve got mad, man. She started getting emotional. Well, I eat rabbit all the time. They come in my garden, I catch them, I eat them. You can't eat a damn rabbit, man. That is unlawful and it's wicked. You can't eat a squirrel, right? So you got to go back and read that law. But more importantly, have faith in the Most High, right? Don't spend your time buying books of your ecosystem and your climate about what you can and can't eat and base it off the law. Your primary focus should be building up your faith in the Most High, because the Most High is the one that's going to protect you and guide you in those days. Okay? The Lord, let me get a precept, right? I would like to get a precept. Let's go to Isaiah 33 and 6. So don't spend your time being vain. That would be vain, right? That would be vain. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 33 and 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. So what's going to keep you stable? Your wisdom, your knowledge, your faith in the Most High. That's your strength of salvation. That's your focal point to increase your fear towards the Most High. That's a treasure. The Most High is going to feed you. See, in Matthew the 6th chapter, the Lord speaks about that. You got a lot of brothers preparing for Jacob's trouble. You're buying underground military bases. You have secret underground tunnels and what they call it. Harry Tubman had a underground railroad and different planes you're going to catch. Look, man, we're not doing it. We don't have an X marks the spot meetup place in a day of evil. And we're of the spirit, man. And we're going to put our trust in the Most High. Right? This Matthew chapter 6 and 25. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Yeah, a lot of people stress over carnal things. You got this devil, he cutting food stamps. People need that. He's cutting jobs, right? Some people prices are becoming ridiculous. Gas is going to increase once these wars kick off, right? So things are going to wax worse. They're going to get worse before they get better. And you can't stress. Stress is not an option for the men of Yahweh, Bahashmi Rashah, for the daughters of Zion. See, that demon might try to creep in where you over worry and what if and what do I do? Take no thought for that. See, one thing that one of our fathers had, Judas Maccabees, is he had ever sure confidence. And he expected the victory and the aid that should come from the Most High. We want to get to the level where we expect the victory. It's a given. You expect the sun to be out in the daytime. You expect the grass to be green. You expect the sky to be blue. You have to likewise expect that the Most High is going to provide for you and take care of you. Life is more than what you eat. Your life is bound up in who gives you food to eat. Your life is more than clothes and raiment. Your life should be bound up on who gives you clothes and raiment. Stop stressing over minute things that the Heavenly Father can freely give you. Verse number 26, Matthew 6 and 26. Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your Heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? I've never seen a bird stressing out, sitting up there with his damn feathers and he's poking his damn with his beak. He's busting his beak up, man. He's flying in circles. He doesn't know what's going on. The Most High built them nests. He gives those nests to those birds, man. Those worms pop up out the ground for the bird to eat. The Lord did that, man. You know, the Most High feed a bird. Everybody eat with Yahweh Bashmi Avashai. Everybody eat, unless you're a wicked man. And we're better than the birds, man. Right? The Lord said he teacheth us more than the fowls of the air. Verse 27, which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit to his stature? Nobody. Nobody can think and become taller. And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if the Most High so clothe the grass of the field, and he clothes the grass, he gives it flowers, right? The Most High has it grow. He does that to grass, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven. Shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? So you don't want to be the brother of little faith. Oh God, it's Jacob's trouble. What do I do? Our counsel we get from Yahweh, Bashmi Avashai, is you call upon the name of Yahweh, Bashmi Avashai. In the day of trouble and your wits end, in prosperous days and in days of adversity, you always call upon the Most High. Don't read books about herbs so your eyes fall out and you're not even building up your faith. You're not fasting, you're not praying, you're not increasing, you're not purging out the old man. You're being carnal and you're trusting in man, but not the Most High. These are the days where we need to build up trust, faith, hope, beg for mercy. These are the things that are pivotal and vital for our salvation, man. Straight up. Verse 31. Hey, it's going to be so bad, Yahweh Shah said, when he returneth, shall he find faith on the earth? And Luke the 18th chapter. It's going to be so bad, Yahweh Shah said that. Are people still even going to believe? Matthew 6 and 31. Therefore, take no thought, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. You don't think the Most High is watching you as a pilgrim on the earth? You don't think he sees you on a run from Esau and his military? I thought the Most High said in Psalms 37 and 25 on down, which is a precept I think about all the time when I go through adversity, it's the Most High said that he has never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. David said that. He said, I have been old. It's like I've been young, and now I am old. He said, I have never seen the righteous forsaken. He said he never seen it. Let me get that real quick now. He never saw it. And he caught hell. Psalms chapter 37 and 25. I have been young and now am old. So he's telling you about experience, right? He's talking about his experience from the time that he was a youth to his old age. And what did he experience? He says, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Never seen an elect just begging for food, starving, dying. He is ever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. If you're righteous, you'll never be forsaken, man. Right? If you're sincere, you're striving for perfection, your heart is right with the Most High, you're keeping these commandments, you get your mind right, your spirit right, you're going to fare well. If you're not sincere and you're vain, you're not going to make it. The Most High knows what you need before you even ask. He made you, man. You think you're about to surprise the Most High about what you need? You think that's news to him? He's the one trying you at that time. Here's the point, verse number 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's your focus. Our focus is seeking the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness. Repenting, praying, fasting, studying, congregating, defeating, and killing an old man. These are the things that we're focusing on. If we do that, everything is going to fall in line. And all things are going to be added unto us, right? And you see that, man. I mean, Joshua, he was taken care of. Judas Maccabees and our fathers, they were taken care of. Nehemiah was taken care of. Name one of our fathers who sought the Most High and his righteousness, and they were forsaken. Give me one. Give me one. Type in one of your fathers that served the Most High, that was sincere and righteous, and the Most High just cast them off. You'll be here all night, dog. You'll be here all night trying to figure out, well, what about this? And no, even if one of our fathers caught hell, the Most High delivered them. Job, Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael. Well, what about Yahushua? Yahushua said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Well, first of all, if Yahushua was forsaken ultimately by the Most High, then he wouldn't be in a position where every knee is going to bow. The Lord don't see one thing about the Most High before I go on a rant is the Most High does not forsake his servants. Yeah, you're going to go through hell, but it's about you trusting in the Most High while you're catching hell. You're going to go through it. Things are going to be taken away from you. Life is going to get hard. Days are going to go unplanned, and you're going to fall into unforeseen hell, ditches and dark pits. That's not the worry. It's going to happen. That's a given. It's about what you do when it happens. Do you still keep the faith? Do you still trust in the Most High? That's what he's looking for. Because you can't avoid the darkness. What you can avoid is a lack of faith, right? You get it, brother. HBKN, Shalom King. Is it adultery if you had her first? Right? All right, now it's getting late. Man, it's the Sabbath, brother. Right? Shalom King, is it adultery if you had her first years ago, but lost contact? Then she reaches out, breaks up with her boyfriend, and wants you back. Well, hold on now. If she's with a man and you say, well, I had her first of all, brother, I'm thinking of a lot of things. Look, first of all, brother, you got to move on. You got to move on. Okay. Right. If you at the point where I had her first and, well, what about, look, remember this, remember us, brother, move on. You got to move on. Right. Doesn't matter if she broke up with her boyfriend. Doesn't matter. You got to move on. Right. This is advice. Now you can say, well, hold on, she can repent. That's fine, brother. Okay, you can. Hey, look, my counsel, I'm just mortal man. Is you move on, right? Yeah, why is she reaching out to you in the first place? Okay, I had her first. I lost contact. Then she reaches out. Why is she reaching out? This is what you got to think about. Is she reaching out because she miss you? Is she reaching out because she loves you? Is she reaching out because you're her everything? Is that why she's reaching out, brother? Before you get it, I'm not saying you, before you get excited that she reached out and you're thinking about the good times you had first, and whatever the case may be, why is she reaching out? So now this could be a whole nother lesson, right? But brother, to answer your question, is it adultery if you had her first years ago but lost contact? Then she reaches out, breaks up with her boyfriend, and wants you back. A woman can repent, come into the knowledge of the Most High. Old things are cast away. The next man she lays with, that's her husband, to answer your question. Right? Now, that woman has to know, hey, look, next time you lay with a man, that's your husband. Right? That's your husband. Okay, so I hope that answers that question, King. If that's that, right? That's that, right? What angel with vials are we up to in regards to the plagues and destruction and end time prophecies written in Revelation? Let's go to, so for those that don't know where this question is coming from, let's go to Revelation 16. So one more point for edification's sake. Adultery is what? Let's define adultery before I kind of get to this. From a man's perspective, what is adultery? Adultery is when a man has sex with a woman that's promised to, meaning betrothed, or married to another man. That's adultery. From a woman's standpoint, what is adultery? Adultery is if you're a woman and you're betrothed, meaning promised to a man, or actually married to that man because y'all laid together and your marriage is consummated through sex. Right? That's adultery. If you're dealing with the sister and she's not betrothed or married, then it's not adultery. Okay? But you got to be mindful. Oh, that's that, right? That's that. I'll move on. Okay. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 16 and verse 1. Here's where this other question is coming from. What angel are we up to in regard to the plagues and destruction? Revelation chapter 16 and 1. And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. So these vials are like bowls, right? So when these angels pour out these vials, they symbolize destruction that comes on the earth. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushai, when are these vials going to be poured out? Right? When are the vials going to be poured out? So the vials somewhat work in tandem with the seals. Okay? They somewhat work in tandem with the seals. So let's read on. Revelation chapter 16 and 2. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. So the vials are equivalent for destruction, mainly by the missiles. So that's the noisome and grievous sore. So this is the first vial is going to be into effect when the missiles began to rain on the earth. All of these vials are symbolic for the destruction of the missiles or the chariots, but it's just written in a poetic fashion. The water being turned to blood, this great heat, right? The sores, right? All of these are these different vials. They're symbolic for war and destruction. So the noisome and grievous sore is not an actual sore. It's not like, okay, this guy got a scab. Oh, this guy got pus right here. I got an open sore. That's not what it's talking about. It's only being called a noisome and grievous sore because it's reminiscent of the plagues of Egypt. Right? A lot of these vials are reminiscent to what we went through in Egypt. The water being turned to blood, frogs being put out there. So it's to stir your mind up on a spiritual level about a plague, but it's not meant to be taken literal. These plagues are not literal. There are not literal frogs going out when you read this chapter. The sea is not literally being turned into blood, right? These things are parabolic about the judgment that's going to happen to men who bow down to the beast, meaning this system led by America, NATO and the EU led by America. So we're not necessarily living in a particular vow as of yet. The vows are going to happen once the elect are sealed, right? Once the 144,000 are sealed, that's when the earth is going to be hurt, and the sea and the trees, pursuant to Revelation, the 7th chapter. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, let's move on. All right, most I willing, we making good time through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, let's see other questions. From Nadeem Brooks Banks, was Job an Israelite or Edomite? I've been hearing people say he was an Edomite. He wasn't an Edomite, right? There's no precept that anybody can ever prove to say Job was an Edomite. Now here's what they do use, right? I'll show you what they do use from what I know, right? This is Job 1:1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. So they use the fact that they say he's from the land of Uz as a foundation to say, well, he's an Edomite. Now, they link that up often with Lamentations, the 4th chapter. Okay, so here's what they go to. This is Lamentations, chapter 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. See that? The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shall make thyself naked. So they say, well, hold on. The Edomites dwell in the land of Uz. Job dwelt in the land of Uz. Therefore, Job is an Edomite. It's called deductive reasoning. It's not based off of the precepts, right? Now, when it says Job lived in the land of Uz, it doesn't mean that he's an Edomite. Where was the Apostle Paul born? Wasn't he from Tarsus? Does that mean that Paul was an Asian? No, man. Abraham, he was a Hebrew. Wasn't he born? Didn't he live in Ur the Chaldees? Does that mean he's a Chaldean? Well, he got to be a Hamite. Abraham's where you live at doesn't determine your nationality. We know and understand that completely. You got Israelites that live in the land of Ham. Does that make them actual Africans by blood? No. Right? So it's such a poor argument to say your landmass determines your nationality. If this was an Edomite, then how could he be perfect and upright? I mean, that's a cut within itself. Whoever says this, tell them to show me one perfect and upright white man that fears God and eschews evil. Ask them. Okay, Job is a white man. Give me one perfect and one upright man. So Job is one of the sons of God. Okay? He's one of the sons of the Most High God. And now you have men that are the elect. That's not Israelites. When I say that, Noah wasn't an Israelite, but he's the elect. Abraham wasn't an Israelite, but he's the elect. Enoch, he wasn't an Israelite, but he's the elect. Shem, these are the sons of God, right? So he is one of the men of the Most High, one of the sons of God, and he's not an Edomite. All right, so let's move on. Like I said, trying to get through these questions. So he's not an Edomite. Okay. Zoom play. Are you observing the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of the 7th month? We are, but not right now, right? Tonight is not the Day of Atonement. All right, for us, we're not keeping the Day of Atonement. We just entered into the 6th month, right? So our next major holy day will be the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, okay? We talked about what nation and tribe. Job is one of the sons of God. Okay, Black Hebrew. What do you think of Isaiah 11? Why are you so disrespectful to East Africans? Here's another question. What do you think of Isaiah 11:11 or Isaiah 11? Why is WFI you so disrespectful to Ethiopians? What do you think of Isaiah 11? Why is WFI you so disrespectful to Ethiopians? Why don't you give them Why don't you give them the benefit of the doubt like Hispanics? Okay, first of all, do Ethiopians give us the benefit of the doubt? Did the Most High say give? What did the Most High, Yahweh Bashmi Awashai, say give the Ethiopians the benefit of the doubt? Right? Where's that in the Bible? Okay, well, give them the benefit of the doubt. Kind of, maybe they're not that bad. No, man. Right? What did the Most High say? Right? And we're going to tell you why we're disrespectful to Ethiopians. Now, when we say we're disrespectful, if I see an Ethiopian, am I going to, he walk down the street, am I going to tackle him, put him in an ankle lock? No, man. Every Ethiopian, do I spit in their face? No. But if you are Ethiopian and we out there doing the work of the Most High, and you just so happen to walk past or contend, we're going to get on you. We don't respect these heathen. We live in this world, so we're wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. I don't have to respect the damn Cushite, man. The hell with the Cushites. Let's get the classic. Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter. We're supposed to give a damn Ethiopian the benefit of the doubt. What does that even mean? Right? The benefit of the doubt. This is madness, right? The Lord would be terrible unto them. That's what the Most High is going to do. He's going to be terrible unto them. He will famish all the gods of the earth, and men shall worship him, everyone from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. So all these false gods, these Eastern Orthodox, these Philosophian, these so-called Ethiopians who claim that they have the ancient books and records, they claim to be the people of the Bible. They've never been conquered. A Cushite is proud, man. I'm gonna tell you something. I see them all the time. And the hell with a Cushite. They believe that they act like the so-called Jews sometimes, man. I'm supposed to give a damn Cushite the benefit of the doubt. Right? No. Yea, Ethiopians also, ye should be slain by my sword. So that's plain. The Most High is not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, man. What benefit? Let's move on. Right? Okay. From Brown King. How are you a mighty watchman priest? I never said I'm a mighty watchman priest. Right? But you make fun of people who have the mark of the beast. That's MOTB. Right? When have I made fun of somebody that has the MOTB? Well, you don't warn the flock to not take the MOTB. We do warn the flock, right? Don't accept and bow down to the philosophies, agendas, and wickedness and sins of this system and their new world order, right? We say that all the time. Are you allowed to answer this question? I just did. I asked you once before, you ignored me. Okay, well, I just answered it. So Salakia, brother, for if you think I ignored you, right? There goes your answer. James Young, Shalom. What does 1 Timothy chapter 3 and 2 mean? The husband of one wife. So that goes into a bishop. Now I'm doing rapid fire, right? Because I know I'm pushing time. So a bishop, due to his rank and his authority and his devotion to the church, he should have one wife. That's the counsel that Yahweh Shai put on the Apostle Paul for brothers in high levels of leadership. If you have all these wives, you don't have time for the church, and your church is your primary focus. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Right. You're supposed to be an honest, truth, loyal leader priest. Why are you mocking people with the MOTB? But you don't warn people. Okay, we just dealt with that. We dealt with that. All right, we dealt with that. All right. All right, let's move on. All right, come on, Brown King. Aaron Kwaman, can you please show how Caleb is an Israelite? The water. Okay, yeah, when you read Numbers, the 13th chapter, says Caleb is from the tribe of Judah. That's how you prove that he's an Israelite, right? It goes to the list of the 12 spies, and it gives out each tribe, And Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, right? He's a Kenizzite. He's of the tribe of Judah. In order to be from the tribe of Judah, your patrilineal genealogy has to go back to Judah, the fourth born son of Israel. Caleb was also given a portion of the land in Mount Hebron, which was a territory or a land given to the tribe of Judah. He inherited the land of the tribe of Judah because he was a Judite, and Mount Hebron was his land. Okay. All right, let's see where we at. Okay, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Right? I think let's see where we at. Right? All praise to the Most High. I think we rocking and rolling. Right? All praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. I think we're making good time. Right? I hope I'm trying to go through all these questions. Okay, here's one, right? Tone. Question about Jacob's trouble. Our people have been subject to rape, rob, murder, and enslavement for 500 to 700 years. Why/how is that not enough? Jacob's trouble. Thank you for hearing my question. Well, all praise to the Most High. Well, first of all, we have to take our emotions outside of the equation, right? We have to understand that the time of Jacob's trouble is a time like no other. And it's not just going to be rape, rob, and murder and enslavement. This is going to be the highest level of persecution for the sons and daughters of the Most High God on the earth. And a difference between other periods of our history of destruction and robbery and murder is that this is the last generation, right? And you're in the end of the world. So it's different because the Most High is going to put an actual spirit, a demon, on a so-called white man. And that demon is going to be to the point where he's going to spare none, but still spoil and destroy those that fear the Lord. So it's different because the men and the apostles and prophets are going to be targeted, and they haven't been targeted before. See, 70 AD, they wasn't targeting the men of the Most High. They were destroying the city. In the days of slavery, they enslaved the Israelites, right? That was on the west coast of Africa and other parts of the earth. This is more of a targeted, strategic, planned massacre towards men that are pushing the truth in the last days. So the wrath is built up, and the anger is going to be a lot more severe, right? So the destruction is going to be worse. Let's get a precept on this. Yeah, I'll get one quick precept, right? Let's go to Matthew. And we'll get Daniel, right? Daniel chapter 12 and 1. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that should be found written in the book. So this time is going to be like no other, because this time they're coming after the men and women of the Most High, right? And they're coming after the temple that the Lord is building. They're coming after the priest, right? So that's a good question, but it's different because not only are we in the end of the world, but also this is more of a calculated, more of a spiritual attack against the spirit of the Most High that is manifest in the last days. Okay, so let's move on. All right. From Christ Hike Mountains, what's the contact number for WFI LA? I'll just email us and we'll get you that, Most High willing, King. Right, we'll get you that information that you need. Right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh and his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh and his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Okay, all right, there are Israelites in Ethiopia. Okay, we understand that. Okay. Why are black Hebrews saying Mexicans are from the tribe of Issachar? It's not all Mexicans. It's darker skinned Aboriginal Mexicans that were pushed south Those are from the tribe of Issachar. Doesn't matter your skin tone or how dark you are, or you're Afro-Mexican, right? That has absolutely nothing to do with anything. And Mark 3 and 8, were there Israelites living in Idumea, Tyre, and Zidon, are those heathen? Let's go to Mark 3 and 8. Right? Mark, this may be one of the first times by the mercy of the Most High been able to get through a lot of questions. So I'll praise to the Most High. Right? Mark 3 and 8. And from Jerusalem and from Idumea and from beyond Jordan, and there about Tyre and Zidon, a great multitude, when they heard what great things he did, came unto him. Yeah, so you had Israelites that lived all over, right? We were all over. Decapolis, Galilee, Judea. You had Israelites that lived in Egypt at this time. Remember in Acts, the 2nd chapter, it said devout Jews out of every nation under heaven. So you had Jews that lived just about every part of the earth at that time. Okay. So I'll praise to the Most High. All right. Well, with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach, Malak Yabashai. Most High willing you are edified. Keep the Sabbath holy. No buying, no selling, no cooking, no work, no sex on the Sabbath, no speaking your own words, no doing your own pleasures. Keep the Sabbath day holy. If you're out in the Baltimore, DMV area, come out. We're doing Hell on the Harbor this weekend. Most High willing, it's a mighty event. The word goes out. Most High willing, the elect are sealed. Throw up these curses on this heathen. Pray for the destruction of the society. Remain focused and steadfast. And again, keep your mind on building up your faith with the Most High. Keep your mind on building up your trust with the Most High. Make sure you brothers are praying without ceasing. Make sure you are calling upon the name of the Lord. Make sure you're thanking Yahweh, and not just asking him and making these petitions. Thank the Most High, right, for all of the things that he has done. Consider the great things the Most High has done for you, man. Make sure you're repenting. Make sure you're examining yourself, right? These are all of the things that we must do in the last days. So with that, again, Most High willing you are edified. Kwame Yasha. Shalom.